Good Monday evening, everyone. Meteorologist Jessica Blum here joining you from the 1011 Alert Center to talk about the forecast going through this week. This may be one week where I need to hold your hand day by day, or at least I'd want my hand to be held with the news I have to bring to you on this Monday evening. If you haven't seen the forecast, our 10-day has one 60-degree day in it. Sneak peek or spoiler, it is tomorrow. Every day after that, there is no day in the 50s. Every other day after that is in the 20s, the 30s, or the 40s. So we are going to get a lot colder by the end of this week, namely by this weekend. So we'll, of course, show you that full forecast here coming up on this live stream here this evening. But there's a lot more wind as we get colder beyond this mild day we're expecting for tomorrow. But a lot of changes. I was waiting for the forecast to look more like January, more like winter. At some point, it seems like that day is here. Well, we are joining you here on January 12th, and I wanted to just share as we start out this stream here this evening that on this day, Lincoln has seen its coldest temperature ever recorded. That was back in 1974 when we dropped down to 33 below zero, not factoring in a wind chill. That is actual air temperature recorded with records dating back to the 1800s, I believe, off the top of my head. Nowhere near that kind of cold are we talking about through the end of this week, but it will be a lot colder considering we're starting out this week in the 50s and the 60s statewide. Close to 60 degrees here in Lincoln today. Got to 59, not quite there, but the lower, almost middle 60s out toward the Tri-Cities in Grand Island, Hastings, and Kearney. 65 in Broken Bow for a high temperature. Norfolk got up to 63 degrees. That was enough to tie an old record of 63 degrees set back in 1928. Almost 100 years old for that record. And records in Norfolk go back to 1893. So that is a long period to be keeping track of records. But that's always a fun thing to start out with as we talk about the weather is records. We've set a lot of records here in Lincoln to begin this year. If you've missed us talking about that, I think we set like 4 records within the first 7 or 8 days of the year, including record high temperatures, precipitation, a single day rainfall event going back to last week, that rainy day last week that produced almost 75 hundredths at the airport and some spots of Lincoln over an inch. Looking at some precipitation chances as we get colder through this week, though, they do not look widespread, and they do not look to produce a whole lot of precipitation like we did in that one-off event last week. But as I join you here this Monday evening, pretty quiet. We've had some mid, if not really all high-level clouds rolling in from the north across the area. You don't see really that at this point looking at Skyview cameras across the state, but it's quiet. You can see the city lights dancing in the distance no matter where you look. Taking Lincoln full screen and showing you the temperature comparison. At this time of the year, it's almost a joke to show you the Lincoln Airport versus the studio because the Lincoln Airport does not show the full story. We're at 39 degrees right now at the Lincoln Airport. Right here at 1011, we're at 48 degrees, almost a 10-degree difference. So it really depends on where you're at. If you've missed us talking about this, the airport tends to read colder at this time of the year because of cold air being rather dense, and it can pool in some lower-lying areas, which the airport certainly is. So they can see colder temperature readings when not everyone else across town is seeing that. Winds right now are under 10 miles per hour. It does feel a little bit colder at the airport, factoring in a little bit of a wind, around 36 degrees. But again, still 48 here across town at 10:11. Visibility is looking good. Some are still in the 50s at this point, looking at south central Nebraska. Holdridge at 52, Kearney at 54. It is 43 degrees currently in Lexington. You look at Omaha dropping off, though, at 38 degrees. Tacoma, 34. So Lincoln is not really standing out or sticking out like a sore spot on the map. A lot in eastern Nebraska have dropped into the 30s at this point. But then not far down the road, really along I-80 in south central Nebraska, 40s if not 50s, with a westerly wind for the most part. We're going to see that westerly wind remain rather light overnight and into tomorrow morning, but there will be more of a breeze picking up throughout the day tomorrow as a cold front will come through and reinforce a northwesterly wind, I think, for much of the afternoon hours. And at times, it could get rather breezy. But as you look at these high-level clouds rolling in, there's no precipitation associated with them as we look at satellite and radar over the last 4 hours. So rather quiet. And then once we go to Skycast to show you the future time frame of tonight into tomorrow and early Wednesday, there isn't a lot going on. There is a cold front that'll drop south. By tomorrow morning when we're all starting to wake up, increasing cloud cover, partly cloudy, turning mostly cloudy, I think, the second part of the day, if not cloudy in some areas, with some stray showers developing behind this cold front. The best chance for some rain accumulating and adding up to 1/10 of an inch, if not more, is probably north central Nebraska and closer to the South Dakota border. Rain's going to be rather light, though. I think dry air is going to limit a lot of our precipitation potential in southeast Nebraska, but there will be rain chances as we go through the afternoon and the evening hours. And these stray showers, as we get colder into Tuesday night, may turn to be a few light snow showers on the back end going into early Wednesday. But again, not really any accumulation expected with this. You just may see a few flakes flying, especially in central, if not north central portions of the state, waking up on Wednesday. So as we talk about the next 5 days and what we have outlined for where areas could be seeing something measurable in that time frame, southeast Nebraska is not included. It's those really north of I-80 through northern Nebraska, and then again closer to the South Dakota border, just east of Chadron. Those darker greens up there, maybe up to 1/4 of an inch. That's probably even overdoing it with this first event, talking about the stray showers coming behind this cold front tomorrow. Then, as we talk about the rest of this week, we also have to talk about the wind, because we're talking about colder air filtering in behind this cold front. The air mass will moderate a little bit as we go into Thursday, so Thursday doesn't look as cold as Wednesday does. But then this weekend, I think the thermometer's kind of bottoming out, and we could have a very cold start to Sunday morning, it looks like, especially. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but going hour by hour through your Tuesday, plan on some wind gusts picking up around 30. I wouldn't be surprised if 35-mile-per-hour wind gusts happen in Lincoln tomorrow. You'll see the wind direction hour by hour shift to be more northwesterly beyond noon, thanks to that cold front reinforcing that wind direction. As we look across the state tomorrow afternoon, wind gusts around 25, 30, 35 miles per hour certainly look likely, especially in northern Nebraska, as this cold air filters in. As we plan out your forecast beyond Tuesday, another breezy day on Wednesday, turning to be rather windy, especially Thursday night and into Friday. There's going to be another cold front that will bring in a colder air mass to settle in for the end of this week and this weekend. I think the strongest wind gusts Thursday don't happen until probably Thursday evening, Thursday night into Friday. And really, I think Thursday we're actually going to start with a southerly wind, but this is just a graphic to show you the maximum wind gust we're thinking day by day. That front later on Thursday will reinforce some wind gusts up to 40 miles per hour. Friday looks rather windy with some wind gusts topping out around 40 to 45 miles per hour, and then still rather windy on Saturday as it gets very cold and will feel rather cold throughout the day, knowing that wind, colder air all combines for a very January type of day by the end of this week. So low temperatures for Tuesday morning as we're starting out. Tomorrow morning aren't all that bad, honestly. These are actually closer to our average highs at this time of the year, and we're starting there tomorrow, so really not a bad beginning to the day. Once we go into the afternoon, again, that cold front, the timing of it's kind of around lunchtime. We should still be able to warm to the 50s to around 60 degrees, even though the cloud cover's increasing. 60, we'll try for it in Lincoln. But we do have winds turning to be out of the north and some more cloud cover. But still, I think one of our mildest days of this week. Today, you saw that. Hopefully you got out and enjoyed it. I know I had some friends texting me about getting out to golf today and what the golf forecast looked like for this afternoon. And I was like, it's gonna be great. The winds are gonna be light. We're gonna be rather comfortable for this time of the year. Get out. And they certainly did, and I'm hoping they're happy that they did, because it is going to get windy, and even the afternoon golf forecast for tomorrow, if you don't like golfing in the wind, isn't as pleasant. But as golfers know, you got to battle with some wind to pick up the golf game. So I would still imagine a lot of people are going to be out tomorrow trying to enjoy some of those outdoor activities and maybe get a walk in, things like that, before it turns rather cold by Wednesday. A taste of winter already by Wednesday. Look at these high temperatures in the 30s in eastern Nebraska, some 40s in central Nebraska, and then, yes, some 50s out in western Nebraska, so quite the temperature range from east to west. Coldest for us here at home in eastern Nebraska. High temperatures on Thursday, January 15th, talking about the middle of the month. We're warming up a little bit. It looks a little better with highs in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and above average. And then, again, that reinforcing cold front, colder air mass again, Thursday night into Friday, settling for the weekend. High temperatures on Friday are only in the 30s again. Wind on top of that. Not going to be pleasant compared to where we've been. We haven't had a lot of winter days to really adjust to either, and this looks like a little bit longer of a period to kind of adjust to multiple days with highs in the 20s or the 30s. By Saturday, your high temperatures are in the teens, if not the 20s. I think that'll be the worst day of the next 7 when you're factoring in wind gusts that could still be around 30 to 35 miles per hour. An afternoon wind chill that's likely in the teens, if not lower than that, for a lot of us in eastern Nebraska. So this is kind of your heads up, your warning that this weekend is not really going to be pleasant if you've got to be outside or you're running some errands. Try to get those done before the weekend, and maybe we'll all kind of warm up by the fireplace or with some heat, things like that. An extra blanket or two, some hot cocoa. That sounds good for really going into Saturday. Your 7-day forecast. This is what I mentioned. Tomorrow sticks out as a really great day, and then it does not look so good after that. 30s, 40s, 20s on Saturday. I can't get past that. Bottoming out with a low temperature on Sunday morning of 8 degrees. There are some, I was talking to Bill before he left here this evening, the range in low temperatures for Sunday, because it's so far out and models just aren't sure yet, literally from like -2 through like 31 degrees. We're believing that it's going to be cold, maybe not -2 cold, but you'll have to watch that as we get closer to Sunday morning and how that changes and what we end up believing based on where the models kind of come together to one solution. So keep in mind that cold on Sunday with a high of 35. We're trying to warm up by MLK Day next Monday. But that's about average, and that's where we should be, the 30s. I'm just not looking forward to multiple days in the 30s at this point when we've been spoiled for much of this winter. I'm kind of with the people, too, that are waiting on a pretty good snow. Precipitation chances, as they show up on the 7-day, you look for Lincoln, are showing up around 20%, peaking each day, and so not widespread by any means. Or are we looking to pick up on any meaningful precipitation, really? So 10-day, this is what I like to show the trends as we go forward in time from today into tomorrow and really toward this weekend. You can see tomorrow looks the warmest with the whole state kind of spread out in that green in 50s to around 60s. And then Wednesday, it drops off. Most of us have highs in the 30s. A little bit warmer on Thursday. Thursday not feeling so bad. But then Friday, Saturday looks very cold. Omaha with maybe a high of 17 degrees. So I was joking when I had filled in, I think, last week on air, that last week, if not the week before that, I can't remember. They're all blending together. When it's wintertime, the weeks blend together. But when I was filling in, I was telling Danielle that was not the time to escape Nebraska, as a lot of people seek warmer weather because we were warm. But I think this week, if not going into next week and this weekend, this is the time to get away from Nebraska, go to those warmer places, and then come back once we warm up again. Because we're getting colder without the snow. To me, it's like, ugh, I would like to get cold with the snow, and then it maybe feels a little bit worth it. But what snow we've seen as of late has been kind of the nuisance snow of like not being all that much, kind of making it icy. It refreezes overnight, makes the road slick. Ugh. This has not been something I've pulled up on a stream, but I wanted to prepare you for the next 10 days and the coldest wind chills that we'll likely see day by day, kind of spread out across the state. Some could be dropping below 0 again as early as Saturday morning, if not the nighttime into Saturday morning, Friday night into Saturday morning, I think is what that's trying to say. And then Sunday morning, dropping below 0 for a wind chill too, before hovering closer to 0, if not above 0 on Monday, still in the single digits Tuesday. So we got several days in there that were on the positive, if not in the negative, for wind chill. So it will be cold around here soon. As for precipitation chances over the next 10 days, peaking tomorrow into Wednesday, and then maybe a 20% chance here and there Friday, and then looking ahead to next week. So not widespread by any means. I mean, last week when we were looking at that rain event, a lot of us in eastern Nebraska had 70, 80, 90, if not 100% chance of precipitation, and we do not see that anytime soon. Besides Valentine's sticking out like a sore thumb at 80% tomorrow, but again, central portions of the state have a little bit better chance at seeing some of those stray showers come through in the mid to late morning, if not the afternoon time frame, and into the evening. Your 8 to 14 day precipitation outlook spans from January 20th through the 26th. Doesn't really give us a strong signal of above average precipitation, actually down to our south and east through the Ohio River Valley. They've got a better chance at seeing above average precipitation, and then back west toward the Rockies. So we don't really have a clear signal of what we're going to see during that time frame, so there really isn't a story with that, so we'll move on from it rather quickly. The 8 to 14-day temperature outlook, though, is starting to hint at western Nebraska seeing some above-average temperatures return by that time frame, so toward the later half of January as we kind of climb out of some colder air this week and into that time frame. Going back to your 7-day forecast, though, I just wanted to give you a heads up that the colder air is on its way. Again, tomorrow looks like the last of the milder days. We do kind of dig ourselves out of a cold day on Wednesday. By Thursday, warming up to the 40s, but then this weekend looks rather cold as well. So bundle up if you've got to be out and about on some of those colder days this week. Until next time, we hope everyone has a great Monday evening.
1011 News is everywhere. Download our smart TV apps and follow us on social media at 1011 News.